Hello everyone, today let's solve the problem number 1661, average time of process per machine, right? So what the question states here, we have an activity table that logs process activities to different machines in a factory. You can clearly see here, we have an activity table here, right? So we have an activity table that logs process activities for different machines in a factory. Each row represents either a start or end activity for a machine ID, process ID pair. You can clearly see here machine ID, process ID pair, which is of integer type basically, right? So with an associated timestamp. So our task is to calculate the average processing time for each machine where processing time for a process is end timestamp minus start timestamp. So this is very important. So what is our main task here? It is to calculate the average processing time for each machine where processing time for processes end timestamp minus start timestamp. So average processing time for a machine is the sum of all of its process times divided by the number of process that it runs, right? So this is very important. So the result should be rounded to 3 decimal places. You can clearly see here that result should be this one rounded to 3 decimal places. You can clearly see here, right? So this is very important. And so now let's come to the example here. So we have the activity table here, right? We have the activity table here. So we have to go with the machine ID and we have to consider the this one. What do we call average processing time? We need to find the average processing time or the processing time here. So we have multiple zeros here and we have multiple ones and multiple twos here. So 0, 1, 2 we will be considering. So process time. So there are 3 machines running 2 process each. You can clearly see here. The formula they have clearly mentioned here. Machine 0's average time here is 1.520 minus this one, 0.712 plus this one, 4.120 minus 3.140 by 2 here. You can clearly see 0.894. Same goes with the other two as well. Same goes with other two as well. Here the output would be 0.894, 0.995 and 1.456, right? So that is what output we got here, 0.894, 0.995 and 1.456 in this case. Machine ID we have 0, 1 and 2. This is fine. So I hope the question is completely clear. What we need to do is completely clear. We need to find the processing time accordingly with the this one, average processing time accordingly with the machine ID. So we have 3 different machine ID here, 0, 1 and 2. You can clearly see here. We have to find the average processing time here. So accordingly with the formula they have given, we have already considered this one earlier, right? So this one, end timestamp minus start timestamp. So this is what we need to do. I hope the question is completely clear. Let's discuss the approach first and then let's write the query, right? This is easy. It will be a bit lengthier but easy to understand, right? So we just have to find the average this one processing time based on the machine ID, right? So let's do that first. So I'll just come here. Let's discuss the approach step by step here. First thing what we'll be doing here, we will extract start and end timestamps here. So we have to extract the start and end timestamps. Based on this one, we have to go with the formula, right, at the end. So we will extract start and end timestamps per machine ID, process ID pair. So this one, just keep this in mind, machine ID, process ID pair, using case inside the max. So inside the max, we'll be making use of case, right? So I hope this is clear. This will be the first step. So second step, we will calculate the processing time as end time minus start time. So we will calculate the processing time as end time minus start time. So this we will be calculating. So third step here is we will compute the average processing time for each machine. We will compute the average processing time. So here you can clearly see average processing time for each machine. So we will compute the average processing time for each machine, and final step here is we will round the final result to 3 decimal places. They have clearly asked this one in the question. We will round the final result to 3 decimal places. So this is the approach that we will be going with. First, we will extract start and end timestamps per machine ID, process ID pair, using case inside the max. Just keep this in mind. First one is very important, first and second one. Calculate the next we will calculate the processing time as end time minus start time. This is very important. We have already discussed this one. We will compute the average processing time for each machine. Then we will round the final result to 3 decimal places as they have asked in the question. We have to round the final result to 3 decimal places. So this is the approach that we will be going with, right? So now what we will do, we will start writing the query. Here, let's start writing the query. Initially, what we did here, so in the fourth step, if you remember, we have, I said we have to compute and round the average processing time, right? So let's go with the fourth step first. So let's write, as we are making use of the select here, right? So we will be selecting machine ID. So this is fine. And we will select round of average of what formula we had, end time minus start time, right? And ampersand t I'll give minus start this one ampersand t here. This is fine, comma 3 as I'll just give here processing time. Processing, this one will be processing underscore time. So this is fine. So the next step here is what we need to do. If you remember, we have to extract the end timestamp as well as the start timestamp. So we have discussed this one earlier clearly in the approach. We have to extract the end timestamp as well as the this one start timestamp, right? So I'll just go with from here. Let me write from here itself. From. So here, how can we extract the start, end and start timestamp here? So from, I'll just give here, let me make use of the select keyword here, machine ID and process ID here. This is fine. This one max of case when this one activity type equals, let me go with the end here. This is fine, activity time end. Then this one, let's go with the timestamp and this is fine as end underscore t here. So now what we have done, we have extracted the end time. We have to extract the start time as well. I'll just copy the same thing and make the necessary changes. Max, this remains same case when activity type equals, instead of start, let me give here, instead of end, let me give here start. So then this remains same timestamp, and as instead of end time, let me make this one to start time, start underscore t. This is fine. So here, this is coming from where? From activity, right? From activity table. So let me give here from activity. From activity. So we have to, I'll just go with the group by clause based on machine ID and process ID. We have discussed this one in the step 2, I think. So we have to group by this one, machine ID as well as the process ID. So I'll just give here machine ID, comma, process underscore ID. This is fine. So finally this one t, let me give here t. So the final step here is, or if you remember, we discussed this one in the third step, I think. So we have to compute the average processing time per machine, every machine, right? So we have to compute the average processing time per machine. That's what they have asked in the question as well. So here per machine, we have to compute the average processing time. So how can we articulate that one in the form of query? So I'll just give here group by machine underscore ID. This is fine. So let me give you machine underscore ID. This is it. So let me hit the run button here. So let me hit the run button here. So here you can clearly see the sample test case is getting passed. Means the query works absolutely correct. So let's check for all the test cases first. Let me hit the submit button. I hope this works. Let's see. So here you can clearly see all the test cases are getting passed here. Means the query works absolutely correct on this case, right? So I hope whatever query that we have written is completely clear, right? For now, this is it. Thanks for watching.